What is up, guys? Evan here, back again. Today I'm bringing you a $2,000 gaming PC build, the highest budget that I've ever done in this series before, and actually double my previous most expensive gaming PC build that I had done in the past. But today we're going to be basing this gaming PC build around the Intel Core i7-6700K, which is the newest Core i7 released under the Skylake brand of processors that Intel has just released and is continuing to release in certain parts and certain different orders over the past few months. So we're going to jump right into the build here. As you can see, I've got all the parts listed, so we're going to be able to go over these individually, one by one. The first part here, of course, we have the Intel Core i7-6700K 4.0 GHz quad-core processor. This is a quad-core processor, effectively an 8-core processor thanks to Intel's hyper-threading. And it's the 6700K. The K means that you can overclock this processor. That 4.0 gigahertz can actually be increased. You can overclock your CPU to higher clock speeds, such as 4.2, 4.5, really as high as you can get it, or as high as you want to go, and that will improve the overall performance of your CPU. The i7-6700K is about as high as you can go as far as the Intel Core i7 goes right now, unless you invest into the LGA 2011 socket. I believe it's version 3 right now. Then you can get into the Core i7, I think it's 5000X series or something like that. But anyway, this is the highest Intel Core i7 that's available on the new Intel 1151 socket right now. And really, this is overkill for gaming. There isn't a game on the market right now that's going to push this processor to its limit or anywhere near its limits. But thankfully, this is also effective for future-proofing. This processor should last well 2, 3, maybe even 4 years into the future, and you'll still be able to play games at high to ultra settings. So, no problem there. It's a great CPU by Intel. The benchmarks show everything has improved about 20% across the board from the previous generation Haswell refresh processors, and overall Intel has really outdone themselves on a CPU of this magnitude. Moving on to cool this, we've got a Corsair H105 73.0 CFM liquid CPU cooler. I'm going to go ahead and go to the Newegg page right now. This is the CPU cooler. This is the Corsair Hydro Series H105 Extreme Performance 240mm liquid CPU cooler. Long name, but 38mm thick, 240mm radiator for better heat dissipation. Really, this is one of Corsair's kind of mid-series to higher-end series liquid CPU coolers, but it'll be more than enough to cool this CPU because Intel doesn't run inherently hot. Even when you're overclocking, even when you've gotten into the i7 series processor, none of Intel's CPUs really break over 60, 70 degrees Celsius if you have the proper cooling solutions. Aside from that, AMD can break into 100 degrees Celsius, and they get really hot, especially some of the, like the 9590 gets incredibly hot on the AMD side of things. But Intel has done a really great job with their thermal TDP, and this will be more than enough to overclock that CPU as much as you want to, and it has 5 out of 5 eggs and 232 reviews. That's pretty impressive, considering how many people have actually bought this CPU cooler. So, yeah. Moving on, we've got the motherboard. We've got the Gigabyte GA Z170X UD3 ATX LGA 1151 motherboard. Visit the Newegg page. So, we've got an Intel Z170 chipset. That means that this motherboard is going to be able to overclock the Intel CPU. If we take a look at the motherboard here, get a good look at it. It really, it's going to have all the frills that you need for a motherboard of this caliber and of this price range. See, you got USB 3.0, you've got external eSATA ports, you've got optical audio out, you've got all the different connectors that you're going to need. This is going to be Intel SLI or AMD Crossfire capable, so you won't have any problems with that. As I said before, it's going to be able to overclock your CPU, and it has proper heat sinks and all the places you're going to need it. A ton of space for drives. Look at all those SATA ports you're going to have, as well as case onboard USB 3.0. So really, anything that you're going to need is going to be served by this motherboard, and you're not going to have any problems with this. There are more expensive motherboards out there. There are cheaper motherboards out there. I wanted to try to find a good balance for performance, and I wanted to find a motherboard that was quality, was going to give you everything that you needed as far as specification goes, but also I didn't want to go over the top ridiculous. You know, you could spend $300 on a motherboard, but it's not going to have anything that you're ever going to really use or need. It's just frills at that point. I prefer to take a middle-of-the-shelf product that's going to serve your purposes perfectly, yet isn't going overboard or overkill. If you're going to just go ridiculous budget, you're going to have a $5,000 budget, then yeah, you can go for the $350 motherboard, but you're not getting any real performance out of it, and at that point, you're just wasting money. Moving on, for memory, we've got a very standard kit. Well, not really a standard kit, because 32 gigs is kind of ridiculous, but we've got a 32 gigabyte, 4x8 gigabyte kit of DDR4 3200 memory. This is incredibly fast memory. This is some of the fastest memory that's available in DDR4 right now. I think it goes up to like 3466 overclocked, but this is one of the higher clock rates for DDR4 because DDR4 starts at 2133 megahertz, and this is just incredibly fast compared with DDR3 running at 1333, 1600, 1866. DDR4 is a massive step up and stops a lot of the bottlenecking that we were starting to see in applications like rendering and 3D animation and that sort of thing. A lot of the higher end applications were starting to feel the hurt of being limited by that clock speed of DDR3 memory, and I think it was about time that we brought DDR4 into the main frame, into the main market, into the consumer market, so to speak, and Intel has done that a really great job. And DDR4 memory isn't all that much more expensive than DDR3 memory. The prices, surprisingly, aren't that much more expensive, and I think Intel waited until the precise right time to kind of drop that DDR3 support and come in with that DDR4 support, and now we see AMD trying to scramble and catch up, and AMD has some new CPUs slated for Q1 2016 to come out that will also offer DDR4 support. For storage, we've got a two-way storage this time, which hasn't really been seen in my previous builds. Start off, we've got a Crucial BX100 500GB 2.5-inch solid-state drive. 500GB is pretty huge for a solid-state drive, but this enables you to put your operating system, your games, all your most used applications onto your solid-state drive so that you won't have any problems launching things. Your boot up times will be faster. Everything overall will feel a lot faster when you're running a solid-state drive as opposed to a mechanical hard drive, a 7200 5400 RPM standard hard drive. And really, this is also another example of how things have come more into the mainstream. Solid-state drives used to be $200 for 40 gigs or 60 gigs, I remember just a few years ago, and now you can get 500 gigabytes for as little as, $150, and that's incredible. I feel like within the next 5, maybe 6 years, mechanical hard drives are going to be a thing of the past, and everything's going to start going solid-state, because really, it's more reliable, it's faster, it's less power consuming, they fail a lot less often, and really solid state is the future of storing media. I think we're going to see mechanical hard drives kind of go away in the next few years. In tandem with that, for all your storage needs, we have a Seagate Barracuda 3TB, 3.5-inch, 7200 RPM internal hard drive. Seagate, as I said before, makes a very solid hard drive. No real problems with Seagate. As you can see, it has a 4.5 average out of 150 ratings. 7200 RPM is one of the faster versions of hard drive. It's not the slower 5400 RPM that you can get. And this isn't going to need to be very fast because this is going to be your mass storage. This is going to be for your video, photos, maybe extra games you don't play a lot, things that aren't going to fit on that 500 gig hard drive, but you still need that mass quantity of storage for. Or if you're not going to be using that much, you don't need to put 3 terabytes into your rig. But at the $2,000 price range, you might as well. You never know what you're going to get into the future, or when you might need some extra storage space. Now, of course, the all-important video card. This is the beastly Zotac GeForce GTX 980 Ti 6GB AMP Omega Edition video card. I'm going to go ahead and visit the Newegg page here. This is basically an incredible beast. NVIDIA has come out with one hell of a graphic card with the 980 Ti. This will play any game on the market, at ultra settings. This will play just about any game on the market. In fact, I might even say that it'll play any game on the market at 1440p. and it'll play most games on high on 4K. This is an absolute beast. We've got a core clock rating of a 1178 megahertz, a boost clock of 1279 megahertz. We've got a resolution of 2560 by 1600, 2816 CUDA cores. This thing is just incredibly beasty. Now, I went with a video card. There are a lot of different manufacturers. The EVGA, there's Gigabyte, there's the reference cards, there's the there's Power Color. There's a whole bunch of different cards by these different manufacturers that come out. I went with a Zotac card because it is one of the most overclocked cards, and it's right in the middle. Some of the cheaper cards you can get for around $620. This is hovering around a $650 price range. Zotac is one of those cheaper manufacturers, and sometimes you have to be wary of that. It's in the range of around Power Color. You know, Zotac and Power Color are those cheaper range cards, but as you can see, it has really good reviews. It has 4 out of 5 eggs, which isn't a problem, because Newegg, some of the people on Newegg kind of get into the whole nitty-gritty kind of thing and give worse reviews than they should have, but really, very, very beastly video card. You're going to be able to play anything you can possibly imagine on this for a $2,000 budget, and in the future, you can even get another one of these. You can SLI set up this, and you can have 2 of these incredible graphics cards, and you can drive a triple monitor setup at 1440p at that point, and you'll have no problem with that. So really, highly recommended. The wattage draw on this is not that bad at all. If we go down here, I believe we can find, it's only 250 watts. That is not a lot of power draw for a video card of this magnitude, and for a video card that puts out as much power as the 980 Ti does. Unfortunately, AMD, really, once the 980 Ti came out, AMD doesn't really have anything that's totally comparable with this. The closest thing that I could think of would be like the 390X, I believe. The 390X and the Fury that they have released right now. But really, they aren't in the same ballpark. Benchmarks show that they're trailing behind NVIDIA, and I believe that AMD, once they come out with the refresh, is going to have to come out with a video card that can compete with the 980 Ti. Because so far, for price performance, or really performance period, AMD can't touch NVIDIA in that realm either. For case, moving right along here, try to speed things up. Got a Fantex Enthro Pro ATX full tower case. It's really just a very standard case at a good budget. Comes with a lot of external cooling. It's a full tower case. Got plenty of room for all your optical drives and stuff. As you can see, it has built-in filters, built-in USB 3.0. It's got a nice look to it. I like a nice white build for an AMD NVIDIA build. But if you don't like the case, scrap it, get something else. No problem. No big deal. For power supply, we have an Antec 850 watts, 80 plus bronze, certified semi-modular ATX power supply. I usually go with an EVGA power supply or Corsair power supply, but Antec also makes a very solid power supply, and there shouldn't be any problems with this. Plus, it's semi-modular, so you won't have any problems with cables or anything like that. For an optical drive, we've got an LG Blu-ray CVD writer. No big deal. An extra $50, you can play Blu-rays on your computer, which I consider a great thing. And of course, our total comes to $19.65 at sale price. It's actually on sale right now until the 2nd. So, thank you for watching, and you can find the build in the description below.